Welcome back, AI curious folk, to AI Ramblings daily podcast. I'm Michael Parekh, your human AI guide. Today it's episode 149. Today's theme, Beyond Their Wildest Dreams, Wilder Than Ever, with AI this time around. Yesterday we talked about the need for speed, what everyone is racing for, AI compute, supply, demand, etc. Today is about what the racers are telling their backers the race is worth and where they're headed. And everywhere you look this week, the answer by them runs beyond their wildest dreams. And that's what the racers are telling everyone who will listen. Wild dreams beyond most imaginations. Let me explain. I'm going to go through three events as usual and then give you my takes. First up, Anthropic. We've been talking a lot about them the last couple of weeks. Monday, we talked about their ongoing preparation for their mega AI IPO. With valuations floated in the $2 trillion range above what SpaceX in June was talking about, 1.5. That one ran up. Elon Musk took it up all the way to almost $3 trillion, and it's sitting back at the $1.5 trillion level. Anthropic, there was a big Wall Street Journal exclusive article, it'll be in the show notes. Anthropic is likely to tell IPO investors that its potential revenue opportunity is above $30 trillion. That's the GDP of the United States. And that number tops Elon Musk's $28.5 trillion estimate that was printed in its prospectus back in May, of which about $26.5 trillion was attributed to AI. Elon's rocket maker called it its TAM. That's a VC term, investor term, stands for total addressable market. It's what analysts like me have used for decades to plan out markets and tell investors what the market opportunity is like, what a specific company might take of that market as that market develops. TAM. It's a key piece underpinning of how we come to stories and valuations. So in Elon's case, basically, his point was that AI is the largest actionable market in human history, and Anthropic is borrowing a page from that book for its prospectus, it looks like. But going a step further, it is sizing the market as the full scope of work that could be completed with AI models. So again, inspiration, Elon Musk. And Elon has kept topping his own filing since. The S1's mission in that prospectus is worth a read, by the way. Language runs to making life multiplanetary and extending it, quote, the light of consciousness to the stars, unquote. When questioned this summer about Anthropic's compute deal, he posted that SpaceX, quote, will be worth more than the rest of Earth if we accomplish our goals. GDP-wise, Earth, about $125 trillion. So I just want to make sure you're keeping pace with the trillions here because, zeros here, zeros there, they add up. And then in his January framing, space-based industries would vastly exceed the value of all of Earth on the energy you could harness beyond it, the TAM, the total addressable market escalation, literally leaving the planet. Companies have long let their imaginations fly in past tech waves, so that's not new. What's new are the zeros being added this time. Some context on how far this goes. Uber went public in 2019, citing a $6 trillion market opportunity. Essentially, they calculated the mileage value, or their bankers, they calculate the mileage value of essentially all ground transportation on planet Earth, and Wall Street thought that was aggressive back then. And Uber took a long time, by the way, to get to where they are in terms of market share and, more importantly, profitable metrics and so on. WeWork, remember that infamous one, I would recommend the movie, cited $3 trillion in its abandoned IPO. NYU's Aswath Damodaran, who's viewed as one of the valued academics, said of the SpaceX number that it was reaching the end of what's plausible and pushing beyond. Well said. Anthropic is now going past it. For scale, the 191 technology companies in the S&P 1500 brought in about $2.4 trillion in revenue last year. So that gives you context against the 30 trillion or so that the first two mega AI IPOs, the one already out, the one about to go out, is doing. We'll see what OpenAI does when they plan to go out and do so sometime between this year and next. The Anthropic's actual printed numbers are considerable, mind you. I mean, the growth is spectacular. Their revenue more than doubled to $11.6 billion in the second quarter. The offering could aim to raise as much as $100 billion against SpaceX's $86 billion at a valuation, as I said before, around $2 trillion against SpaceX's $1.77 trillion at listing. The disclosure documents are expected within weeks, so we'll know a lot more, with listing potentially in September or early October. And a cautionary marker from the last record setter, SpaceX shares dipped below 105 intraday in early August before recovering to roughly today about 135 its offer price. My take. I spent years at Goldman taking internet companies public in the 90s. TAM slides have been a directional storytelling device, as I mentioned, not just for my era of the tech wave, but for a long time before. But they're not a forecast. What is new this cycle is the definition itself. When the market is all work that could be done with AI, the TAM is less a market estimate and more a worldview, an aspirational view with a really beyond out there number attached. Investors will not pay for the 30 trillion. They may pay for the 11.6 billion or the 65 billion that the company has built in AI, Claude Code and co-work revenues in the last year from 6 billion. They may pay for the growth rate. They may pay for the compute commitments. They may pay for the path to profits if they're believable. The things we've walked through in a lot of the earlier pieces, including the Monday piece. But the number does real work here. It frames the raise. It anchors the valuation debate. It forces every competing prospectus, OpenAI included, to tell a bigger story. We talked about SpaceX's print, days ago in ARD 96. I'll put that in the show notes under the theme, "The sky is not the limit." Anthropic just proved that a second time. For now, the market is whatever investors can be brought to dream. Let's go to the second topic I want to talk about today, which is Leopold's galaxies. You recall Leopold Aschenbrenner. I talked about him in a previous podcast. The Wall Street Journal did a very detailed profile that I would encourage you to take a look at. It'll be in the show notes. And it opens with this was a 24-year-old that basically raised a few $100 million from the who's who, including many of the founders at Anthropic and Stripe and a whole bunch of other folks, and took it up to market value of $45 billion. And then they had a spectacular collapse on leverage plays a few weeks ago. That was well publicized. It was on the eve of his wedding to the personal assistant to Dario Amodei, the co-founder of Anthropic. Well, this article is worth reading because it talks about his origin stories a little bit. This is a kid who joined Columbia at 15 from Germany. He was super bright. He wanted to literally buy galaxies. He would go around San Francisco talking about buying galaxies, not private planes, but actual galaxies. He fascinated people, very connected people with his stories. Everyone from Sam Bankman-Fried, the infamy of his downfall that is well documented, to a lot of people who went on to found Anthropic and OpenAI, and as I said, some of the who's who in Silicon Valley. He published a 165-page AI manifesto called Situational Awareness, which talks about the long-term TAM, the total addressable market that the AI world was going to create. A lot of investors, some of the best in the world, leaned into this. Jane Street took a $15 billion monthly loss on their investment. Ken Griffin of Citadel was able to buy some of his portfolios, public portfolios, for discounts to the market. So a lot of spectacular detail around all this. But my take here is that this is a familiar cautionary tale when very charming, very charismatic people, amazing personalities, amazing intellects are able to tell amazing stories and convince people of their ability to execute on those stories. And this is another example of stories well told and told very wildly indeed, galaxies inclusive. So that's the second thing I wanted to outline. The third story I wanted to outline is the story of infinite ambition around data. There is another journal story that I wanted to highlight where companies are moving aggressively to mine corporate conversations out of private direct messages in public Slack channels. Google is trying to buy Spirit Airlines digital archives of 100 million emails, personnel records, and team messages. Why? Because the notion is that all this corporate data in countless messaging systems of companies, large, medium, and small, not just in the US, but around the world, is new data that is not on the internet that could be used to train models and run inference on them. So scaling the super scale models even further. And that is truly infinite. My take here is that the data is going to be a never-ending, infinite source. And I've written a lot about this, and I'll have those pieces in the source notes as well. But data exhaust is infinite. Synthetic data is going to be created out of this. There's a huge data dance going on. Corporate data is a huge resource, and there is massive aspirations by not just the frontier AI companies, but businesses who are looking to mine this data in a whole different way that was never possible. And that is going to be a new race that we're going to have to get our heads around on how to value that data, how to figure out how that may earn a return, and what as investors would we pay for that data. And so that is another infinite dream that I wanted to highlight as part of our theme. My overall take here is if you take a step back, all these three stories are essentially part of a whole. This wave is financing itself on narratives without ceilings. The total addressable markets are defined as work done by humans across the United States, indeed the world. And in our homes, in our companies for the data. This is not about a bubble call. This is all about how frontier technology raises money, and the imagination is the collateral in the early innings. And the early innings is where we are with this AI tech wave. So far, I've talked about the three stories, each a dream stated without a precedent. Anthropic talking about $30 trillion total addressable markets. Leopold talking about buying galaxies. Companies, Google and others looking to buy corporate data in a massive way, both thriving companies and defunct companies. So that is the overall expanding definition, expanding imagination story in this AI tech wave. There are a lot more zeros. The addressable markets are a start, and these are wildest dreams indeed. Let's now move to the Gadget AI section. Here I wanted to talk about the most anticipated video game in a long time. Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming up. Take-Two is the public company that is going to be publishing this. And there were some leaks on the videos this week, and there were almost 300 million views. This is, for those of you not familiar, the GTA series is probably the biggest media property across movies, books, TV, whatever you can imagine. This video game is one of the biggest media properties of all time. So, and it's about having a life of a criminal mostly in all of its 6 incarnations, where you are in big, large, infinite cities ranging from New York to Miami and beyond. The record so far, GTA 5, which I'm a huge fan of, I've been playing it for many years, has sold more than 230 copies across the personal computers and console generations and so on. The sequel, the GTA 6, has been years in the making. It has cost billions of dollars to make. This is before AI. The next GTA 7, as and when that comes, will have a lot of AI in its construction. But the launch is very highly anticipated on November 19th. The CEO of Take-Two has already said that the pre-order numbers are unprecedented. So be prepared for reports of how GTA 6 is going to basically bring in billions in revenue. Rockstar, in my mind, is the counterexample that proves the theme I've been talking about, beyond Wildest Dreams. They've spent a decade hand building a simulated world at a fidelity almost not matched in anything done in video games prior to this. These are hand-built worlds, extraordinary amounts of detail, hundreds of characters that inhabited, thousands of places you can go, do things, infinite opportunities. So truly dreams beyond wild imaginations. And this one is real. This one will be shipping November 19th. So I wanted to highlight that as my Gadget AI commentary today. Which takes us to our Q&A today. What makes GTA 5 my favorite video games? Well, to me, it's the losing yourself in this world and the open-ended nature of playing the characters or not playing any of them and just roaming around. And you can lose yourself not just for hours but days and weeks and more if you let yourself. And so that is the appeal. There is the Rockstar also had a similar movie, a game called Red Dead Redemption in parts 1 and 2. You can do the same thing in the Wild West. They've moved the settings in different places, but GTA is the gold standard. Second question, how does AI change games like this? And in my mind, considerably. I think AI is going to help obviously make these worlds even more real, more dynamic. It's not in GTA 6 as much as it will likely be in GTA 7 and lots of other games that are going to be coming down the road over the next 2 or 3 years that will have considerable amounts of AI tooling and authorship and aspirational worlds to dream in. So I wanted to highlight that as my Gadget AI comment today. AI reset to zero today. I published this morning, 11:90. It went out. It's on Frontier Labs, Anthropic, OpenAI, deploying lots of engineers in these efforts called Forward Deployed Engineers, FDE. These armies battling for the enterprise. They've raised billions of dollars through private equity companies to basically outrun the Microsofts and the Salesforces of the world for enterprise sales and Palantir, etc. It's a big battle for enterprise revenues, and FDEs are a key weapon, as it were, in this mechanism. And I wanted to talk about that and highlight that. On a programming note, just highlighting NVIDIA is going to be reporting after the close today, Wednesday. We'll talk about that tomorrow in ARD 150. And of course, AI reset to zero, 1191 is tomorrow. I want to thank you again for joining us again, sharing in all these dreams. AI curious folks, stay tuned.